What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that, and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Yes, people, it is the KSC once again, Kinell Sinister Cinema. You know what it is because you have clicked on it. We got some good stuff coming up for you. Lots of stuff lined up. It's been a chaotic week, I'm not going to lie. You know them ones where it's the start of January, you're thinking, right, that Christmas, New Year's, all that chaos is behind me. This is where it's all going to be organised. This is where it's all going to be sorted. Like the chaos ends and this is going to be the year when everything's together. That lasted literally minutes in my case. Literally minutes. Been all over the shop. Well, we still got some good stuff coming up for you. I got a cracking guest for you today. We're going to have a cracking conversation. In other news, if you are in London, it might be your last chance to get a ticket on Sunday for King of the Smokers in association with All the Smoke. A load of weed-themed, alcohol-themed battles. No hard drugs, no harm done, nothing up the nostril, nothing up the bum. That's going to be a crazy one. We got Lefty, Impact, Tongue Twister, myself. We got Frost. We got Hulk. It's going to be a mad one. It's a very private thing. You got to contact Hulk to get the tickets. So it's your last chance. Get that done rapid. Hit him up on Instagram. We also have something crazy dropping for the new year on Don't Flop. Be sure you check that and make sure you are looking out for the first episode of Adventure Rhyme. And now, with no further ado, let's get a guest up in this bitch. It is Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, the man who I first knew as Conman Curve. And all-round geezer. Great to see you, man. Great to see you. Been wanting to get you on this pod for a hot minute. You've been absolutely killing it with the YouTube channel. Flipping excellent stuff, man. How's that been going?
Yes. Thank you, bro. Oh, UTG's been going very well, man. We last year starting off with 800 subs, and then by year end we were on about 27k growth, and now it's just making sure we can keep that coming thick and fast with more honest reviews, more nightmare fuels.
Excellent scenes, bro. Flipping, it's great to see you succeeding so well, man. Like flipping, you really got into it because we both started similarly doing something over lockdown. Like I tried to do the more of a YouTuber thing, and it wasn't really for me. Didn't really fit in with it, but you really found out exactly how you wanted to work it, and it's been tremendously successful for you, and it's amazing to see it grow the way it has.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. It's as I said, I mean, to the people who've been part of the battle rap scene, watching the show now here, obviously I used to battle ambiguous battlers who are also part of the Unleash the Ghouls setup. And yeah, got another mate in as well, who is now part of the channel, so now running this bitch in 2023, and we're gonna have a fun time, mate. We've got plenty of content to come, but a lot to talk about today.
We have, man. It's right at the start of the year, and we had some big plans for what we were going to talk about, but chaos ensued in our respective lives. So we're running a bit last minute, but we know our shit, so we're just going to style it out like that because we are capable of doing such things. And we're right at the start of the year. We're going to talk about a few predictions for the year 2023, and you've come up with a few, so we're going to hit up a couple of them and discuss them and see how we feel this year is going to pan out. Because last year was such a fantastic year for horror, like absolute banner year.
It was a good year, especially mainstream horror films as well, where you know you can kind of take cinema for the last 13 mainly being your Marvel superhero films that have been the big financial hitters at the top end. But over the last year, seriously successful horror films with good marketing campaigns behind them that have ended well in the mainstream. And I think that's one direction that it's going to keep going in for the future, for certain.
Yeah, it's great. I like it. And it's not just franchises popping, it's original IP. It's like all like a lot of new creative ideas coming through. Like, it's just great to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's sort of one of the points that I'm going to bring up today. Went away and had a bit of a thought on what sort of trends we could be seeing in horror movies, and one of them is indeed relating to franchise horror films. I think that some franchises who are an exception to the rule, but as you've alluded to, the most success coming out in the horror world now are original ideas.
Yeah,
when you get some of the already existing Halloween, the 3 most recent Halloween films have been very divisive. Particularly Halloween, bit of a poor reputation, I think, in general. It seems as though people aren't as fussed about and all the money is lying in stuff that's fresh. Like Smile did very well. Barbarian didn't. Both solid films, I think.
Yeah.
And they didn't take any pre-existing ideas.
Yeah, I mean,
they
certainly
just sort
not.
of took some formulas and tweaked them.
Yeah, but I mean, certainly not in the case of Barbarian. Like, that had its UK premiere at Fright Fest, like, and it had people signing a non-disclosure agreement. And like, normally the non-disclosure agreements are over by the time it hits the festivals. But in the case of Barbarian, they're like, nah. Don't be going on social media ruining this. Don't fuck up the vibe. Don't do that, like, and so that was a strong sign.
Yeah. never mess with the vibe, mate. Not if you want to try and create Barbarian is, especially that first sort of act of the film, which is almost in kind of the very slow build, suspense driven, psychological side to it, that those films have kind of proven that you don't always have to be taking stuff that did well 30, 40 years ago. You can do so yeah, that's kind of one of my first predictions for trends, that we are going to be seeing a lot more brand new stuff doing well.
Yeah, so that's flipping something that's always good to see, and it's something that people complain about in its absence, but For years, it's been the whole rule that if you want to sell horror, it needs that familiarity. It needs something that people can relate to. But I think I mentioned it a few times. I feel like the turning point was kind of Get Out. When Get Out dropped, that was like the sign that you can have a mega hit with something that's completely original and unique. And that took a bit of time to like sort of trickle down to like what people were taking on, and then later on, we had COVID, of course. But you know, now things have been out for a bit. People are making these films, like, and not everything's a flipping like. I mean, like I'm sick of like films about introspection and trauma, man. There's just been so many.
Yeah, there's been for good reasons, because it's been a traumatic few years. But I do agree with Get Out. I think Get Out was a role shift for the genre, which made the Academy think twice. That's something that horror films do, and it proved via, you know, Jordan Peele's commentary on racial issues, cultural issues, classmanship issues. It was a film that proved you could make horror more than just people dying, and it brought about the whole element, which, you know, some people don't like that term. I don't really mind it. It just shows you can do more with horror than just generic
and
shit.
That's true, but like, I mean, the whole elevated horror, I kind of like sort of trace it back to your Babadooks and all this kind of thing. Like, I think like the shift with Get Out is that
yes
is that it does all those things whilst being a really fucking fun, entertaining movie.
I totally agree, and the Babadook is a great shout of a film as well, which is it's often films like Babadook and like especially Hereditary. I feel like there's a big portion of the horror audience who just hates it. They don't, not like they don't get it, because that would just be a selfish thing to say. But those films are a lot more about those, as you've mentioned, traumatic grief. They're about loss, about family. And I think that if you have ever been through anything in your own life similar to those circumstances, you kind of connect with those films more. Which is why I really do all A24 movement in general, and what it's done for not even horror, because it's breaking out of horror with like Everything Everywhere All Well, especially at the Golden Globes. I think it's a great powerhouse, A24, and there's a lot more horror stuff going to be great, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got an interesting relationship with A24. It's like I was saying to Frankie in our wrap up of 2022. That's a great episode with Frankie Fraser. Check that out. Like we were saying, like some people seem to have a strange relationship with A24, and like I don't know who the most annoying people are. The people who only watch A24 films, or the people who act like A24 aren't putting out loads of really good films. Like neither of those arguments are completely.
Yeah, they're lots of really good films.
Yeah,
they're not, neither are completely true, because not every A24 film is great. Of course, they have us in there, and I do get if some of their films are a bit too abstract for people, which that was a bit odd. But I like that. I like the fact that they're being quite bold.
Yeah, this is it. If you take
different than the norm,
if you take a lot of wild swings, they're not all going to connect with everyone, but those wild swings are the ones that are going to connect with the people they do connect to more so than anything else.
Yeah, Kinell, and leading that into another point that I've got regarding trends for horror.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
I think what has done in particular, I think A24 have done in particular, is helping push into the world of horror. For many years, you know, the Scream Queen has been a big, you can trace that back as far as the genre has existed.
Yeah.
But certainly in recent times, well, I say recent times, he's probably talking about 7-8 years ago, you're tracing back to. If you go back to The Witch,
yeah,
I kind of didn't appreciate as much when I first saw it as I do now. But The Witch, boy's name on the map. You go to Midsummer, which got Florence Pugh's name on the map. And there's been Pearl, and soon there's going to be Maxine, which has got Mia Goth's name on the map.
Yeah.
And she's going to be in the Cronenberg film, Infinity Pool. Brandon Cronenberg's an insane talent.
Oh, yeah. Came out the gate swinging like flipping antiviral, amazing, and Possessor just was probably my favorite film of that year.
Possessor is a film that I watched it for the first time for Unleash the Ghouls. One of the best films I've watched for the purpose of doing a video. It's such a great film. But yeah, like those three in particular, or in Levira, who was in Terrifier 2. She went a little bit viral after Terrifier 2 blew up. From Wednesday is blowing up massively now.
She was in everything last year, like flipping from
of these actresses.
She kicked off the year with Scream, and flipping did X, like, which came out the next month, and flipping she's got Wednesday. I'm sure she had something else out as well.
Yeah, she's been in very only like 20 or something like that. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of avenues for actresses in particular get recognized through horror. I think it's a genre where it can now put your name on the map.
Yeah, and it can put your name on the map,
which is why I think we're going to see more of them.
Yeah, I think it's like now that we're getting like these more meaty roles that sort of like putting female actors on the map as good actors, not so much good at being in a horror film, which is, you know, the sort of previous thing, and that, which is why you'd get people like Jamie Lee Curtis who come through as a horror actress, and then she'd want to break out of it to flex her acting chops. Now we're getting the good roles and like the meaty performances that like, no, I'll just do horror. The shit rocks.
Yeah, that's for sure, mate. And I think that the opportunities are always going to be there. And the fact each other, like we've spoke about horror movies getting more of a serious treatment and getting a bit more just being like trashy films that no one cares about in terms of criticism. If you make better horror films, you'll attract better talent. You'll have more great people coming through and getting their careers off the ground. Yeah, I think it's just a great genre to help sort of push the entire spectrum of filmmaking in a new direction.
Yeah, very true, very true. Like, and I think we're seeing like more creators are like that isn't, it's not so much like a horror film is like what you do at the start of your career to get a bit of experience and then you like ditch the genre as soon as you can. Now it's you can express yourself like fully within this genre and not have to like stick to little indie productions. I mean, like what hang on, sorry, I'm just pulling something up because I've got to pronounce the name correctly here. Like if you want to talk
I'm
over
so
me while I'm
guilty of.
googling here. Yeah. Kayla Cooper, particularly.
Yeah.
Like she's been an incredible breakthrough talent as a writer. Like her run has been like Hellfest, which was I think that went straight to Shudder in the UK. It was like kind of like Halloween slasher film, scary film. That was very good. Like and like that sort of gets away gets her attention. And what you call it? The next film she did is Malignant. Which ends up being directed by James Wan. And now
that's a good film.
Yes. And now she's I haven't seen it yet because it's just been released at the time of recording, but she's just done Megan. So that's
nice with the answer exactly like Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah. Like all three of those films are like her first three films.
That's a good record.
Yeah,
that's a very, very good record. Yeah. And I think another good example of that is, well, there's two actually, and they're both A24. Is Ari Aster,
yeah,
who of course did Hereditary and Midsummer, and a short film called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons.
Yeah,
that's messed. But but he's also doing that new Joaquin Phoenix film, Boys Afraid, which is also labeled as a horror. His name obviously through the horror genre and doing really well for himself. You've got Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, then did The Lighthouse. Moved away from horror when he did The Northman, but again, he's going back into doing the new Nosferatu film with. So it's I think there's definite proof that horror can get your career pushed off in the right direction, and that you don't have to necessarily start in that to get into something different. You can just continue doing that.
Yeah. The freedom of creativity is just abundant. I mean, like I say, like flipping, like when I realized that this Kayla Cooper was just involved in those three films, that's incredible. Like, you know, she demonstrated her talent very early on with a very well made but quite grimy slasher film. And she's having box office hits. Like the Megan thing is it's become very memeable. It's very viral. Like there was a big screening in London, and they had all the Megan dancing girls. Like, and the marketing for it's been incredible. Like, you know, it's I believe it's more of a teen orientated thing.
Yeah, I saw something regarding Megan where they had all of the masked girls at like a baseball game or a basketball. And I remember when Smile was getting marketed, and they and there were loads of stuff. That was awesome. That was great. Like that is fun marketing, which more films need. Break that fourth wall to get people talking about it. It gets attention. Doing stuff like that gets more attention than slapping in a 30-second.
This is it. That's it's worth acknowledging that like horror like at the minute is really the only genre that's kind of doing that and all. Like, you know, in the age of TikTok and viral marketing, it's very much streamed to things that are very much to digital advertising and digital marketing in like all other aspects. But it's like these bigger budget horror films that flipping like have this, that they're putting the creativity into that side and all, and it's just great to see.
Yes. Yeah, it's really, really great to see. Because it gets more attention. And I think here's a good segue. Something which also is getting good attention is the choice of subject matter for horror to take me into talking about what I'm going to describe as nostalgia horror. Now, by that, it is referring little trend going on right now of there's one particular guy behind it who's called Reese Field, and he is the man behind the upcoming Winnie the Pooh horror film, which has been getting a lot of. Also going to be doing the upcoming Peter Pan horror film. Apparently he's producing a Bambi. So it's this whole idea of let's take a pre-existing property, public domain, and put in a horror spin on it. And we've kind of seen other examples of this lately. There was the Minch film. There was a short film doing well virally called Fiona, which was big. There's also something coming out this year called Gale, which apparently is a Wizard of Oz themed horror film. A short lifespan that this lasts as a trend before people get bored of seeing kids things made horror. Foreseeable future, I think it's going to be a big trend.
Yeah, I think we've like landed into like a really interesting period for what is coming into the public domain, because because all this stuff that is all stuff that was created maybe like I don't know how long the public domain thing is, like maybe 20, 30 years. Like it was the childhood stuff that like the Disney films were drawing on in the sort of golden age of Disney, like, and this kind of thing. So those are the properties that are coming. So it's like timed very well for these properties to become available. Like, I mean, obviously there's been things like that. I mean, like H.P. Lovecraft and Dracula. It's always been horror properties made into horror, like, and these films, like, I'm going to watch them. I'm going to check them out. It's not necessarily my thing, but I do find it like interesting, and I dare say it's like something that they're probably not for me. They're like that. These probably are for a younger audience, like like I dare say, like, you know, almost gateway horror, really. Like.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah, and they're can be taken seriously, critically or artistically. You know, they're just silly films. Really, like, we can make a film because legally we can. There's no other reason, but it'll make money. It'll be a money spinner for a curiosity. How long will that level of curiosity last before people get a bit bored of it, or until they run out of good stuff to adapt legally? All's got some stuff that you could make a juicy horror film out of. I mean, The Witches is already terrifying as it is.
Yeah.
So, who knows, a scary like Willy Wonka.
Yeah, like this is it, like, you know, because like that's why they've got to be from that sort of like a sort of like wartime, post-war sort of Disney golden age and like pre-war properties, is because like when you get to the 70s, the children's movies were terrifying. You know, by the time they get back to Wizard of Oz and like they're having rights issues with that, we get Return to Oz. Like you have your nightmare fuel videos on like I don't have to check. I know you've going to have done one for Return to Oz because it's fucking terrifying.
Yes, we did do one for Return to Oz, and sadly going to get retweaked and released again at a later date. But that is messed. That is a mess film. Are you mad? Who's watching The Gnome King when they're like 8 years old? Like, what were they thinking?
I mean, like, before you even get to flipping Oz, like, they're giving electroshock therapy to a child. Absolutely
it's
ludicrous.
so known a more bleak child's film. I can't think of anything that's called Kansas. It's just a great landscape of misery, depression, financial instability, and torture. And that's in my, but certainly not back in Dorothy's time. So that was awful. But yeah, they got away with some serious shit. And speaking of Return to Oz, this segues me into another point, which is generated film images have been going around quite a bit lately. There's a particular Facebook page called Abandoned Films.
Yeah.
And what they do is they pump in, like, imagine this film made by this director in this year, sort of thing, and let the AI produce those images. And one of them that's been going around a lot lately has been Escape from Oz.
Yes, I saw
which
this.
is like an AI's it's like an AI's impression of another Return to Oz era horror version of an Oz movie, and that's been doing really well virally. So I had a check of some others. They've got a Chocolate Factory, which is a horror Willy Wonka. They've got Alice in Zombieland, which is like a Danny Boyle style Alice in Wonderland with zombies in. They're even able to get this AI to go back to like Fritz Lang period, Metropolis era, and get the Terminator and the Matrix done in that style.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So what I think is that a potential trend. Oh, sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that this is like a viral movement. Like, so I mean, this is probably what you were going to say. I think it's only a matter of time before one of these images happens across someone who has access to the rights to the property they're making and goes, "Hang on, I can just make this film."
That's the same, mate. Yeah, I think that like if you give it enough time, something will go viral as a concept, and then someone will create. You get mad stuff. Like people will put like, "Can you make this version of this film Jim Henson or something?" And these puppets the AI generates look just like Jim Henson's puppets. Why I think this is going to genre is it takes a lot of creative energy to think up these types of creatures. The image generator can think that thing up for you, and then you can just go and make it. Del Toro came out and spoke about it. It's the idea of that because it takes away the artistry from the minds of the creators. Because Del Toro is a huge fan of monster movies, and his creations have been iconic. I mean, like the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth is one of the best, probably.
I need to
if someone is able to go, can you make a fucking Creature from the Black Lagoon on Pornhub, basically. It's a good film. I don't think it was an Oscar best, but it's a good film. Might have ruffled a few feathers there to some people. But yeah, I think that some people could potentially want you to do a Del Toro version of anything, like a penguin, whatever. See what that looks like. Right, I know what that looks like. I'll get some artists to draw it. And I think AI is going to have an impact on the horror genre for future, is what I think. Whether it be visually... Well, I suppose it's only going to implode.
I think like it's ultimately going to become something that like maybe even it's something that just impacts the boardroom. Like suddenly the pitch for your movie, which was really crazy and desperate, is now you get your pictures and go, "Give me this money and I'll make this." and like suddenly the concept of like pitching a really wild concept becomes something you can vividly illustrate. And like, so I definitely think there's something.
Yeah, I think that sounds really plausible.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's interesting because it's something that could come from the internet and like really have an impact, because there's been things before. I mean, like when things that have emerged from meme culture, like the Slender Man, which obviously originated in Marble Hornets, and like things from like creepy pastas, like, you know, it's like these things are designed to be a viral weirdness, like, you know, back to we spoke a lot about like creepy pastas and the whole sort of like Reddit scene involved with that. Spoke with that about with the homie Tom, aka Toucan. And like but the AI becomes something you can translate easy, like because the horror from something like the Slender Man comes from the mysterious unexplained thing, and like it just goes to shit when you try and put a plot to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Slender Man movie that they made, it didn't really capitalize on the mood of what Slender Man originally was. Perhaps it got a bit behind it when it could have been much better, doing more maybe from an indie angle, I suppose.
This is it. It needed to be more like a host or something.
But it's funny. Host, great example. Great example.
Yeah,
because that's very solid. It is funny that you mention. Oh, sorry. It's funny that you mention creepy pastas, because that leads me on to my
let's hear it.
Sort of trend predictions. So it's in relation to a fairly recent, talking maybe 3-4 years, this has been going on, and it's the concept of analog horror. Just a spin on found footage horror or POV camera-led horror, where you get these kinds of productions, or they look very authentic, but they take on these really horrendous concepts, and it almost makes it feel a bit more. In terms of creepypastas, there's been a really big one blow up in recent times called the Backrooms. Was a creepypasta, but it's been developed into a series on YouTube by who is a 17-year-old filmmaker. His talent is exceptionally good. Sorts of the Backrooms look like they are just on old, shitty, cheap cameras when it's entirely CG. It's madness, chief. But the popularity of the Backrooms being in its visual style of that kind of 90s level equipment, you can sort of see in other films that have been coming out that have been going semi-viral, follow this same kind of aesthetic. One of my favorite horror films of last year was Skinamarink, which is this
still haven't seen it, you know, it slipped my radar.
Horror movie in a dark house. Yeah, so if that slipped your radar, that I would recommend getting that back on. It's abstract, don't get me wrong. It's not a normal watch. It's quite Lynchian in a lot, but effectively it is. We are spending some time in a really dark house at night. Most of it's prison camera equipment that looks like it's from like 70s indie horror. Like, it looks cheap. It's got static. It's got crackle. It feels cheaper, but somehow that makes it scarier. And you can see there's Ennis Men looks interesting, which is the guy called Mark Jenkin who made a movie called Bait.
The Cornish one, I believe, are they using like 8mm for that or something?
He's moved on to making, I believe it's 8mm.
Yeah.
if it's not, it's but yeah, that again looks nightmarish. There's something about the otherworldly nature of that adds to the chill factor, the creep factor about them, and the fact that that's coming back in a little bit more people are going to use. They're going to utilize that, because I don't know about you, there are not many horror movies from the last 20 years that have properly scared. They're a bit too clean, a bit too clinical. It's that dustiness of old school horror that I think makes them scarier. So I think that I certainly think analog horror is going to be a big thing for the future.
Yeah, it's the tape in the ring, isn't it? Like, you know, that. So we kind of see like these sort of two parallels where we're seeing a resurgence to these older, like, you know, considered to the modern day archaic technologies, which has something familiar from a scarier aspect of our youths to the likes of us, and is completely alien to a younger audience. And meanwhile, you've got this sort of running parallel with the movement that probably started with like your unfriendeds and like moved on to your hosts, where what you call it, things using the technology in your hands, which creates a different kind of scariness because it suddenly puts you into that world.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was where we were using webcam horror movies, or just bits of modern tech. Like your sort of your Dash, those kind of movies were doing really well. Apps, there's a little period where we were getting horror movies based around apps. There's that one that was an app which told you how long you had until you were going to die, sort of thing. So cultural trends are on where horror goes, and I think now it's moving away from supernatural stuff. Every year, one decade was a fucking exorcism film every couple of months. Now you don't see them. Pray for the Devil or something come out last Halloween, and it didn't do particularly well financially.
I think this is it. Because now people are taking these like wild swings and that, like previously, like, you know, like if someone wanted to make a religious horror, you just made The Exorcist, because that's what you do. You know, the goodie's the priest, the baddie's the devil. Bish bash bosh. There you go. Innocent girl, safe, and that's the model for religious horror. But you know, we're in these more creative times, and you get The Leech, which involves a priest and like doesn't really involve anything supernatural at all, but it's certainly horror, and it certainly does have like a strong religious element to it. It's not something that I myself relate to, but people I know who have been brought up with this kind of background say they can see something in it, like, and I can connect it, because like sometimes I want to see myself reflected, but I'm a white guy. I've seen myself reflected in movies for years, like, so I do like hearing these other angles on things. I do hear, I have more of an enjoyment these days for like the kind of voices that aren't mine, POC voices, female voices, trans, non-gender, LGBTQ, all them ones. All these things, like that's where the creativity is coming from, like things that had previously been a bit more coded, or like someone was involved way down the process, but basically it was a bunch of white dudes making it. We really are getting the voices coming through now.
Yeah, and that's a nice thing. I think that of not just horror, but of all cinema, I really like how there's so much freedom now to experience cultural perspectives, because you don't get to spend that amount of time in those parts of the world. No one really, or you've lived for 100 years. So cinema is a great way to connect with those parts of society that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Where like we are taking the piss out of those kind of the bad reactions to the fact that we've got all this representation. Bodies was a great black comedy horror, which completely took down the whole of backlash towards LGBTQ movement productions and stuff like that. Or yeah, it was a great sort of piece for that. But yeah, I think that more of that is welcome. For certain, of Jordan Peele, who has been able to give us perspectives on black culture through horror films, with Get Out and a little bit with Nope, but not as much. Is it the case where, well, I mean, where do you go from here? Like, we've gay horror, like if that's even possible. Like, I don't know like where we go, but the fact that it's such an open book,
I'm
now.
I'm very familiar with the world of queer horror through the Soho Horror Festival. Like I always attended that. And Mitch, shout out Mitch. He's always putting on for the LGBTQ creators and that. Like, and so from his virtual festivals and his actual festivals, I kind of get a view into that world. And there's a lot of untapped talent there. Like, so a lot of it's like smaller indie productions, non-English language productions. But like the creativity and the talents there, like, and like ultimately things are like the biggest things are going to be Hollywood. But you know, the more they wake up to things and realize that maybe like making something like a they/them isn't the way to go, and maybe you get in the creators that from this world. Like, I'm hoping that's something we see a lot more of.
Yeah, I totally hear that. You're right, it wasn't the right way to go. I think that the mission statement it set out to do wasn't really delivered. You would want it to. It wasn't a satisfying kind of production for that. And even though it was trying to be different, for obvious reasons, it just felt very samey. I want these artists to not be afraid to express what they think, what they feel. I want truth and honesty in people's productions, you know? And just more excited. The channel with Unleash the Ghouls, we review a lot of brand new releases, specifically Netflix stuff. And because a knack of weaving in characters from all different sorts of backgrounds, you do get loads of negative comments like, why? Because it had too many gay characters in it. It's like, can you just not shelve that and watch it for what it is, or meaning and an excitement out of it, than just, no, I'm not even going to bother because I disagree with some casting. I want stuff to move away from that. Let's just enjoy works of art, really, because that's what these.
I do feel that like that's like it's not even a part of like the film community. I feel like it's part of like the internet is where that negativity is coming from, and it's just a bunch of weirdos that like that's their flipping hobby, is just being weird about shit. Like I don't think that they're like watching films that represent them. I think like their form of entertainment is just being a cunt about these sort of things online.
It is. If it starts at a centralized source, whether it be like an outlet like Unilad, not that they've done anything particularly bad. I mean, they have, but I can't think of any examples. But a lot of it trickles saying this is bad because of the main character being a lesbian, as an example. That's not a good enough. But if that person is big enough and that much of an influence, it'll trickle down through Twitter, it'll trickle down through Facebook, and then suddenly something's getting review bombed on IMDb for things that aren't even related to the show. You get Miss Marvel coming out. I've not seen it. I've not seen Miss Marvel. I've novel things that have come out lately because there's too much of it. But that was getting review bombed because it was a Muslim superhero.
Yeah.
The show hadn't even, and it was sitting on like 3 or 4 out of 10 because people just were wanting to jump on this bandwagon for Control and power. It's silly. It's totally silly. Just wait till something comes out and watch it and be fair. And I think if channels like ours keep pushing fairness and keep pushing on, then ideally we don't have to have these chats in future about like it's because it's bullying.
Yeah,
in a way, you're bullying based on a film.
Like flipping, like I do feel that it's that's what it comes from. It is that it comes from a place of like animosity and like the only films that these like internet weirdos are paying attention to are the ones that have something that they can complain about. And like I love Twitter, but there's definite wankers on film Twitter. And the reason I know this is because they never got any fucking smoke for me. I see the little twats fucking like, you know, shout out all the people at Ghouls Magazine, flipping sub up to Ghouls Magazine, excellent, female-led, horror coverage. I always check their shit and I check their podcast. Lots of talented people run there because I need the perspectives that I don't have. And like, we got people like, Amber, shout out Hornblood Fire, all these kind of people. And like, I'm thinking about Zobo and Kelly over at Our Bloody Obsession and that. Like, flipping internet weirdos have always got smoke for them when they're saying an opinion that doesn't align with them. I am tweeting nonsense all fucking day and no one's got any fucking smoke for me. So it is just about the fucking bullying. It's not about the fucking opinion. I could say the same thing. You're not saying niche to the fucking, like, the fucking battle rapper, are you? You're fucking saying it to someone that you think you need to prove your superiority to. And it's really shameful because, like, these writers and broadcasters, like the most intelligent people I go to for my information. And, like, some people don't like it that the best information's coming from people who aren't white dudes.
We need all of the Ghoul Gang members who are watching this now from Unleash the Ghouls to jump on Kinell some smoke. Send him some smoke and see what happens.
Yeah, man, fucking. Yeah, fucking fling it over. Let's hear you. Let's hear what you got to say. By the way, I thought Men from last year was a fantastic fucking film. Seen plenty of people like fucking kick it off about people for supporting that. Kick off at me for it. Let's see a bit of fucking that. You know what? Fucking Hellraiser 2. It's the best one. It's better than the first one. Do you know what? Fucking else? Flipping, like, last year's Texas Chainsaw film was a very solid slasher film. And fucking people who say that the Hellraiser trilogy is just completely garbage after the first year, you are completely ignoring the fact that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series is a much worse fucking culprit. Fucking I've got fucking takes for days, mate, and I can back them up. Bring me the fucking smoke and see what happens. It is the KIN to the ELL. Dickheads! Come on!
Let's go, Kinell. You send out those takes. Send out those takes, bro.
Right.
All right, if we're doing takes,
let's hear the crazy takes.
I'll give you one.
We're coming up to the hour mark. We're about 5-2, so we'll have a bit of crazy takes to round off on.
All right, I might have to think of a few more, but certainly one of them. Halloween, better franchise, doing the Season of the Witch style. different film every year than doing Michael Myers. That's mine.
Yeah, man. Flipping, what you call it? I agree with that. I think the anthology style would have worked better, but I'm also a really big fan of the franchise. So ultimately, we're questioning a decision that went down back in the mid '80s, and I would have liked to have seen it. I would have liked to see it. I really like a lot of the films we got, and flipping now I've got to buy a copy of Halloween Ends, which I really enjoyed personally because it's the only one I haven't got in the box set. But I would have liked to see that anthology thing play out, and I wonder if horror in general would have been different if it became about like flipping. If you want to keep your IP going, you need a crazy new idea every time you want to do it. You know, what effect does that have on the world of franchising?
I think, yeah. That's true. That's true. I think with the Halloween example, it could have worked better in either way. Don't have Season of the Witch and just keep Michael Myers. Season of the Witch should have just been its own thing. Don't call it Halloween 3. Just call it Season of the Witch, and it would have been probably looked back on more fondly, probably. But yeah, there's some spicy old horror movie takes out there.
Yeah, so really, it's Halloween 2 that's the one responsible, and it like flipping like if Halloween 2 didn't exist,
yeah,
you would people wouldn't have been expecting Michael Myers in Halloween 3. Plus, Season of the Witch would have been Halloween 2. Like
that's it.
Flipping like it.
That's it.
And by the time you're round to Halloween 3, like flipping
Two's
Friday the 13th done like flipping 4 movies, so you've established the format that the killer comes back every time.
Another hot take. This is not like a groundbreaking fact. If you've been a follower of Unleash the Ghouls, I don't believe that there is a single great Friday the 13th film. Now that's a serious accusation to make. I can't. I know. That's roughly more feathers than anything else I've said.
Yeah, that's
episode. One that's a truly great horror film.
I believe there is, but I also have like nostalgic attachments to them, like so.
There we go.
It has to be taken into account. Like personally, I reckon Friday the 13th 6.
In terms of nostalgic attachment. Six. All right, I'll give you 6 for nostalgia purposes. I will for fun film. It's not even a good film, but for fun, I will accept Jason X.
Oh yeah.
It's bollocks.
Yeah,
it's bollocks, but it's a set of bollocks. That's a weird.
Flipping, I'm a big Jason Goes to Hell fan, which was actually I think it was the second one I saw, and like that was what I saw very young, and that one like they wanted to be the Evil Dead with it so bad, and it was like, oh, Freddy's Claw, like seeing that at a very very young age, I have so much more I have so much more time than like almost all Friday the 13th franchise fans. I got the big Ponzi Scream Factory box.
I think that that's a set.
Yeah.
That is a juicy set. That Scream Factory. That's a good bit of kit. That. Yeah, that whole Freddy Krueger direction, of course, which was the prelude. To Freddy versus Jason. I wouldn't have minded that whole Evil Dead direction. If you've seen any of those Evil Dead comics, they are like where it's like Ash versus Hitler. I'm sure that was something I might be misremembering there, but they certainly had Ash versus all of these.
Yeah, I think there's what you call it. There was
any of them brought to life would have been fun.
Yeah. I think there was an Ash versus Freddy versus Jason. which was like a further Freddy versus with
That
Freddy trying to
sounds-
get his hands on the Necronomicon and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, that does ring a bell, actually.
Yeah.
I want a copy of the Necronomicon because I fucking love Evil Dead.
Yeah, I used
And
to
you
have
can
the
get really
older...
nice the one from Evil Dead 2, which I prefer.
Yeah, like there was a DVD of the original Evil Dead. I think it was like the first ever release, the first time we got it uncut. So it must have been about around about 2002 or something like that. And it came in a Necronomicon box, but it was like a latex rubber Necronomicon box, so it felt quite flashy. But obviously, like those kind of things degrade over time. So it's
that's a shame.
Yeah. So it looked great at the time, but you'll struggle
As
to
we
find
all
one
do.
that
As
looks great. Yep, I know the feeling very, very well.
Looks good quality now.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
yes, that was fun. Mate. I've enjoyed chatting about those.
Yeah, man. Certainly want you back. Certainly want you back. We've been a bit all over the place, like in what you call it, our respective lives the day running up to this. And this is like your first time being on Streamlab, and we had a few technicals with that. And it's my first time using the local recording of the audio, which is a nerdy podcast thing that most listeners will not give a shit about. So we've been a bit scrappy and just like running with it today. But like flipping, I've enjoyed this so much. I certainly want to get you back on and flipping when we're a bit more prepped and what should we call it, tooled up. We'll get something nice together. But It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Connor, Conman Curve, Unleash the Ghouls. I know what we've been saying. What you want people to get eyes on? It's Unleash the Ghouls on YouTube. Incredible channel. But is there anything else you want to hype up?
Wow, not in particular. My life is consumed with Unleash the Ghouls right now. Like outside of the working world, it's guns blazing on Unleash the Ghouls. But yeah, if you do want to go check that out, we do regular videos, series, some things which were probably designed more for kids, but were actually done pretty freaky. We test horror film, old horror films. We've got a big range of stuff, but usually it fits within the horror genre. So, yeah, me, Stu, Kofi, and Hugh covering all sorts of stuff over there. But I will say, if you are watching this video and you are from Unleash the Ghouls, then please do hit Kinell with his great guests on. Some really good chunky videos with a massive variety of topics. So please do him a favor and give him a sub because he's earned it. He's had me on. That's enough for a click. Surely.
Facts, bro. Facts.
Only come on, do it.
That's the one. Sub up the thing. I am Kinell, and this has been Sinister Cinema. Thank you again. Gonna wrap it up here. Safe.